This is an ABP Live Podcast.
A tub of popcorn, something nice to drink, and your favorite movie or show to watch. If that's what your perfect evening sounds like, you are at the right destination. Because you are listening to Bollywood Binge and Beyond with me, Niharika Nanda, where we talk about everything that is movies, shows, web series, and things that are hatke about them. So let's start Bollywood Binge and Beyond. So guys, when I say the word home, what comes to your mind? Maybe a person, maybe your room, maybe your house, or maybe your own city. But that is where we need to expand our imagination. That is where we need to change the conversation. Because home is something much beyond just your city or your house. It is the planet that we live on. It is Mother Earth. And on the occasion of Earth Day 2022, we have a very special guest on Bollywood Binge and Beyond who has been consistently working for the cause of our planet and for the cause of our environment. UNEP Goodwill Ambassador and UNSG's advocate for sustainable development goals and very well-known actor and producer, Mirza. Let's welcome amongst us the one and the only Mirza. Hi Diya, how are you doing?
I'm very good, Niharika. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to this conversation.
I am so happy that I have gotten the opportunity to talk to you, and that too on the occasion of Earth Day. And you have been someone who has been relentlessly working for the cause of the environment. And this year's theme for the Earth Day is Invest in Our Planet with focus on technologies that can benefit the Earth. Usually we have seen that technology and environment are not seen as things that go hand in hand. So how do you think that technology can benefit our planet?
Oh my God, I think technology is going to be able to save us from a climate catastrophe.
Okay.
There is enough evidence now of fantastic innovation and technologies that are, using natural resources like wind power. Then there's, solar power, and it will help us go away from fossil fuels. And it needs to happen, of course, at an exponential rate to be able to contain the temperature rise within 1.5 and not let it exceed 1.5 degrees.
Yeah.
I'll give you a small example of what technology can do. I'm going to talk about an innovation that Vidyut Mohan, who runs a company called Takachar, he won the United Nations Young Champs Award a few years ago and also won the Earthshot Prize recently. But he's basically developed technology that captures carbon from the air. Essentially, all the stubble, the farming agricultural stubble that was being burnt has been put to great use because all of it is collected. It gets converted into a carbon that can be used to fertilize as a fertilizer, as a compost, as good carbon. Then of course there are other people who are capturing carbon from the air and are making tiles out of it. So there's all kinds of incredible innovation happening around us. There's also a young girl Vinisha, who's innovated a technology where essentially she saw how the old iron press was being used with coal, and she's replaced the coal with solar energy, and it's her innovation. And she's all of 14 or 15.
Wow.
So I think the future rests firmly and steadily in the hand of innovators and technology. I do believe, of course, there's solar impulse. How can I forget that? An aircraft that can travel on solar energy.
Yeah.
If a flight, an entire aircraft can move on solar energy, imagine the possibility. So there is hope because of technology. And I think that, this misnomer that technology is actually, of course, we have messed up with the kind of technologies that we have used in the past that are not entirely friendly. I think the shift is going to definitely help.
For sure. And I think that is also the positive step that we need right now. That is the need of the hour. Because as you said, that there are situations where technology has really not helped. But then again, we need to use the resources that we have to sort of change the situation in our benefit and in the Earth's benefit, definitely. In the last 2 years, I think one of the major things that became a part of life was the pandemic. And during the pandemic and the lockdowns, the only thing that benefited, I think, was the environment. We saw clearer than ever skies. We saw birds chirping, that too in a city like Delhi, where pollution levels usually are off the charts. So why do you think that we needed such a harsh measure, that is a national lockdown, to improve the state of our habitat? Why is it so?
Well, it's not just the national lockdowns, right? It's the global pause. So it's called an anthropogenic pause. Everything has stopped. And of course, that helped intermittently for a short period of time to restore some balance to the natural world, right? Yeah. We saw wildlife reoccupying spaces that they had long, left. We saw air. Of course, air was cleaner. We were breathing cleaner air.
Yeah.
But I think it's important here to make everybody aware of two very important things. One is that COVID-19 is unfortunately a direct outcome of our broken relationship with nature.
Yeah.
It is because of biodiversity loss. It is because of illegal practices like wildlife trade and different things that caused this situation in the first place. And I think the second most important thing is that what the COVID-19 did for many people was help them recognize that the health of human beings, our health, your and my health, is connected to the health of the planet. If we want to survive and thrive, we need to ensure that the planet is surviving and thriving. Honestly, I think the planet will survive just fine without the human species.
Very true.
But while we're on our way to doing what we are, we should definitely consider the fact that we are causing exponential loss at every level. But the most harm that we're doing is to ourselves. It is to the human species. Because if we don't fix the climate problem, if we don't address the climate crisis, actually we've created a triple planetary crisis of pollution, of biodiversity loss, and climate change. Yeah. And if we don't address these three things with urgency, we don't stand a chance as a species at not just survival. We may go extinct, but along the way, we'll just cause unimaginable chaos and pain and loss, and it's just horrid. All of this, I think, should be reason enough for all of us to mend our relationship with nature and do better.
Definitely. And I think, as you said, that the earth will survive anyhow, but it's us, the humans, who cannot survive if we don't take care of the planet, for sure. So, Diya, you have been working for so many years for sustainable development, climate action, saving the environment. What was it that motivated and encouraged you in the very first place to work for this cause?
My love for nature. I think it starts from there. If you don't have an inherent love for nature and an understanding that your life and your well-being is connected with nature, then there's no starting point really. But of course, I think it was after I started working NGOs, especially in spaces of cancer care and pediatric cancer care, and I discovered that a very large percentage of people were getting cancer because of environmental pollution, whether it was polluted air or polluted soil or polluted food that people were, consuming, and the lack of public awareness and the lack of public consciousness about this subject, and the fact that environmental consciousness was just not as prevalent as it's now becoming. It's becoming now, which is great, and I feel like it's a personal victory of sorts, but it needed to improve, and I felt like there was great work happening in silos, scientists doing great work and conservationists were doing great work, but It wasn't becoming a part of mainstream communication.
Yeah.
The media wasn't really focusing on these subjects enough. And we were just rapidly losing forest cover, and we were rapidly losing wildlife. I just felt like it was urgent to get out there and, of course, first start by bringing the changes that one needed to in my own life, but also then help more people discover the great work that was happening and needed to continue happening.
Definitely. And as Gandhiji said, that be the change that you wish to see in this world. So having said that, our generation, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, that's coming ahead of us, they are the inheritors of the earth beyond us. So what is a message that you would like to give them, or how can we inspire them to take care of this humble abode that we call the earth?
Well, it really is our only home. I think we need to drop all notions or ideas that the geography that we occupy or the residential address is our home. It isn't. It's the planet that is our home. And everything that we need, whether it is the air we breathe or the food we eat or the water we drink, or the lives that we need to sustain ourselves, all comes from the earth. And the first and fundamental responsibility that we have as human beings is to ensure that all that supports life on earth must be protected and conserved. And this is for the sake of not just their future, but their present. And which is why I never speak in terms of future, because quite frankly, if you had asked me 10 years ago, where I see myself in 2020, I would have never told you I would be locked at home.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't have imagined
None
that,
of us
right?
would have,
And
definitely.
I am terrified. I'm terrified to think where our children, where this generation will be, where you and I will be 10 years from now if we don't act on the climate now. So build pressure on governments, on policymakers, on industries. Work towards solutions at home. Understand that every individual action and every individual choice matters. Every time you turn on the tap off while you're soaping your hand or you're brushing your teeth, every time you take shorter baths, every time you switch from a CFL to an LED, every time you refuse a single-use plastic bag or a plastic straw, every time you celebrate your festivals or your birthdays or your weddings more sustainably, every time you eat locally grown food, seasonal food, unpackaged, food that is not packaged in plastic. Think of everything, like weigh your needs versus your wants heavily, every
major
time. And I think that you will become very powerful inheritors of the earth and also very powerful protectors of the earth.
Very true. And I think if we focus on small things that we can maybe change just a little, I think we can make our mini contribution towards a very major cause. That
carry your own bottle, wherever you go, fill your water bottle. That is itself such a big, action. And I think there's a strength in numbers. So join communities, join young people who are also working towards change. There's so much. I gave you examples of innovations led by very young people who are confronted by the crisis, but are not looking at it and running away from it. They're saying, how am I going to fix it? And they're fixing it.
Yeah, they're concerned towards it. They are genuinely, they want to bring about a change and they are working for it. And it's not even something that everyone has to do. You don't have to make very huge innovations. You just need to take small steps that can really bring about a major change. Very true.
Something as simple as managing waste at home can make such a big difference.
How we dispose of our everyday garbage, that can also be a huge step. So thank you so much, Dia, for joining me today and for having this conversation, because it is much needed. It is the need of the hour, and high time that we all understand that this is our planet and this is our home beyond the houses that we live in. And we are the ones who have to take care of it. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. The earth is genuinely our mother, and we need to protect it.
Definitely. So guys, that was Dia Mirza talking about the environment, our planet, climate change, and trying to make us understand that we are responsible for our own habitat, we are responsible for our Mother Earth, and we need to take care of it because the earth might survive without us, but we cannot survive without the earth. Wishing you all a very happy Earth Day 2022. Let's work for our own planet. For all things Bollywood, TV shows, web series and movies, tune into my podcast Bollywood Binge and Beyond, only on ABP Live Podcasts. The scripting and the voiceover for this episode was delivered by me, Niharika Nanda, and the sound designing was done by Lalit. See you soon, lovelies.
फिजिकल डिस्टेंसिंग के टाइम पे न्यूज़ डिस्टेंसिंग मत करो। डाउनलोड करो एबीपी लाइव ऐप और जानते रहो।
This is an ABP Live podcast.